After North Korea's Kim Jong-un, China's top diplomat and Foreign Minister Wang Yi is visiting Russia for security talks as Moscow seeks continued support for its war in Ukraine. The Chinese diplomat is expected to be in Russia from Monday till Thursday for the 18th round of Russia-China security consultations. Wang Yi will also discuss a wide range of bilateral cooperation issues with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov, including a discussion on Ukraine. China and Russia have grown closer as relations with the West have deteriorated for both the countries. And Foreign Ministry spokesperson for China, Mao Ning, called Wang Yi's visit to Russia a routine one to hold in-depth talks on major strategic security interests. Wang Yi is headed to Russia after concluding his two-day meet with US President Joe Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. The duo wanted to stabilize rocky relations between the US and China. Whether or not US and China have managed to do that is something that we will be discussing in just a bit. Let me also introduce my guest today. I'm joined in by Bishop Garrison, who's the adjunct professor at Georgetown University and also a fellow at the National Security Institute at JMU Law. Many thanks to you, Bishop, for joining in. Now, Wang Yi's visit comes days after Putin's much discussed welcome of the North Korean chairperson Kim Jong-un in Russia's Far East. How do you view the timing of China's foreign minister's visit, one that also is being touted as strategic security consultations?
Well, thank you for having me. I always love joining the show. Again, as you already mentioned, Wang met with Jake Sullivan in Malta just recently, within the past few days, I believe, over the weekend. And this ultimately just shows that China is kind of in a full court press here at the moment in terms of its diplomatic outreach and trying to connect both with Russia and with the United States in this area. He went to Russia previously last February in the United States, rightfully, I believe, had concerns there. Now, what creates a little bit more complexity here is, just as you mentioned, Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia as well to meet with Vladimir Putin, and what that could mean for the geopolitical community. We know that North Korea has often pushed to be more relevant within the political space, and their connection and pledge to Russia, particularly during this time of great conflict within Ukraine, really it does symbolize something. So I think a part of this effort may just be to help reassure folks that China is going to be China. They're not going to make any sudden moves in this case, but they're going to continue to align themselves with a lot of these despots and these authoritarians, and that is concerning.
Bishop, it's interesting you say that, because many geostrategists also believe that any mutual North Korea-Russia support is happening only with China's knowledge or even implicit consent, given Beijing's proximity with both the countries. At a time when China is challenging a US-led international order, we've seen Beijing engineer an expansion of BRICS as well. What, in your view, is the larger geopolitical messaging over here?
I mean, at the end of the day, China is concerned about China's own interests, and they are not going to let North Korea or Russia act in a way that is going to be to any type of detriment to China's long-term, to their longevity overall. And yes, they're going to continue to push the Western Hemisphere, particularly the United States, the UK and our allies, in terms of influence within a variety of global regions, but at the same time, they're going to reassure their own partners in other countries that they are not going to allow for North Korea and Russia to act too far out of their left and right boundaries. So I think you're right. China is not going to let those two countries act without their knowledge and really, to some degree, without their say-so. And a part of this meeting, I would suspect, is to reaffirm that and ensure that they have strong ties with those countries.
And when you talk about protecting its own interests as far as China is concerned, over the weekend, Wang Yi also met US President's NSA Jake Sullivan, while the president himself interacted with the Chinese Premier Li Qiang during G20 in India. US has, of course, maintained that these are indications that the two nations want to stabilize economic growth. And in fact, US also wants to diversify its options. But having said that, Are both the nations also now preparing to step up engagement by bringing in military-level dialogues? Are these indications hinting in the possibility of a military-level dialogue between US and China?
To that, I think we don't have enough information to really make any type of clear speculation on it. I think anything would be conjecture. What I will say is that look, this is an incredibly complex situation, particularly when you talk about the economics of it, emerging technologies. China continues to be the major military pacing threat for the United States. In terms of their investment in innovation and in research and development and critical minerals, their investments in on the African continent and building an infrastructure so they can have access to things like cobalt and many other precious minerals that are used in national security supply chains. So I think we need more information to really understand what's going on here. But remember, this is a global economy. All our interests economically tend to be somewhat intertwined. So it is in everyone's best interest to ensure that we maintain some level of stability. And that's really, I think, important to China in the same way it's important to the United States.